Hello, and welcome to the 9th devlog video for TOOTL. There is finally a new echo. It showcases the first few steps of our new editor that we're using called Tiled, link in the description, alongside a completely new engine and some rewritten mechanics. It's actually the 8th rewrite of TOOTL. Now the dialogue can only be generated in code, but I'm working on some sort of way to load external files to create dialogues, but the mechanics for the dialogues are very much functional. So you'll notice there are some GUI elements here. These are only viewable in debug mode, but in the final game, of course, they will be invisible. So TOOTL is a point and click game, so I can point, I can click, and Ian will make it to his target. There are some props here, which you can see are very well drawn, and they're not only well drawn, but they're actually lit in real time. I can showcase this with one of the debug features. If I hold down R, I can change the rotation of the directional light. This only works in scenes that have a directional light. But as you can see here, the chair and the TV are being lit based on the position, or more the direction of that light, which is omnipresent. But we also have these yellow squares here. These are hotspots. When you click on them, a script will activate. For now, I am using these as doors. So if I click on this first hotspot, Ian will go to the hotspot, interact with it, and activate a script that will load a new scene. You can see that this scene has a background, and it also possesses these point lights, which are just a light with a position and a color. But what's important is that they have a position, not just a direction. So you can see here, this light here is a red light, then there's another light over there that's a green light, and you can see Ian over here, his left side's being lit, and then the top, and then the right side is being lit. So he's being lit dynamically. The normal maps are still a work in progress. All the lighting is being done using normal maps, but you can see the chair and the TV also interacting with the light. And we also have a key here, which is an item that if I click on it, Ian can pick up, and then it's in his inventory. This is a good time that I can show you another debug mode. If you press V, you activate no clip mode, and this allows you to just no clip anywhere, and allows you to quickly test out like normal maps if you want to see how Ian looks like if he goes around this light, and you can just, kind of fly around the scene and see how things look real quick. And if you drop him off, he'll just keep his y-axis. There's no way to detect the ground as of now. Over here, you can actually see that this isn't yellow but orange. This is a trigger. It's like the hotspot, but instead of activating when you click on it, it activates whenever Ian passes through it. And you can see that that just brings us right back here. Now there's another hotspot here, another door. That brings us to a different scene. This scene also has a background, but this background is not lit. This is one of the many settings that we have in the editor. And of course we have another key here. Before I pick it up, I want to show you something. If I go back here, there's a third hotspot here. Hotspots can be of any shape. And this hotspot will only activate if I have both keys. That's a part of the script. So when I interact with it, it activates the script, and the script checks if we have both the yellow key and the blue key. So if I pick up the blue key and interact with this hotspot once more, it gets rid of our items, and we're brought to this winning scene, if you want to call it that, just a weird scene. You can also pause the game by pressing escape, and this just allows you, I guess, to see what anything looks like at one frame. And I also want to show you, if I reset the game here, you can see the key item, once you pick it up and it's in your inventory, if you go back and reload the scene and all that, the key won't be there. Items will only spawn if they don't exist in your inventory, which is why this last hotspot got rid of our items as if we used them. Now over here, I can show you the file structure. So you'll have a resource folder. This is where all of the files are. It's a bit messy right now, but I plan on cleaning this up. there's a scenes folder within the resource folder, and then I named this folder demo, which contains all the scenes that we saw today. And within this folder, you can see that we have the background images, and we have various TMX files, which are tiled files. So if I open up the outside, which is the first scene we saw, so if I load this up, you can see how the scene looks. So we have a lot going on here. There are, over here, this is the chair and the TV that we saw. These I put within the props layer. These layer names are not important, all except for one, which is the background layer, which this one does not have. So you can name these layers whatever you want and put any color to them, but I organize it like this because it's easier to navigate. So these props here, they have a certain type of prop, and this is important. This is how the game knows, oh, I need to put an image here, this is a prop. And which prop will it use? It will use the chair prop. And it knows that what the chair prop looks like, because if we go into the resource folder, into textures, sprites, props, we have all the props here. So when we say chair, it does not load this image. In fact, this image isn't being loaded at all. This is just an image, but it actually loads the diffuse and the normal map. Basically, this is the image that it uses for the color, and this is what the image that it uses for the shading, which this is called a normal map. So when I say chair, it automatically loads the files chair underscore diffuse and chair underscore normal. So you could put any pair of images here, and as long as they follow that pattern, they will be loaded successfully, and you can put as many new items into the game without having to program it in at all. Now the width and height is important here, because that is basically it's like if you put a billboard here and stretch the image onto the rectangle that you see here. So I just put in the resolution of the image, and that's usually that's perfect, and everything is aligned with the pixels of Televoid. So if you draw it next, if you use Ian as a base size for things, everything will be of correct proportion if you put in the proper resolution in the width and height. Now I also have a custom property depth over here with a minuscule d, a lowercase d. This is somewhat of a Z layer, which allows you to put props either behind or in front of Ian. This is a work in progress, but still interesting to have. Now these starting locations, once again, the layer name isn't important, but what is important is to know that they must have a position, which over here is this point right here. And I spawn Ian's feet at that location, so basically this is almost a good depiction of where Ian would be at the start. So you can see there are multiple starting positions, and which one will be selected is all based on the previous scene that activates. Now once again, the type is important here. Player underscore start is what says that this is indeed a player starting location. Fade left, or face left, is a checkbox that if checked, Ian will spawn looking left. If unchecked, Ian will spawn looking right. Fade speed and fade in on start are work in progress, so they don't do anything. And previous scene that activates is the path to the scene file. For instance, res/scene/demo/lightshow could be the previous scene. So if you come from this scene and you're loading this scene, then this is the spawn point that will be activated. And you can see here, res demo lightshow.tmx, res scenes demo lightshow.tmx. So this is the spawn point that the game will use if you come from the scene, which allows you to do what I've done here, which is I have a door, and if you come back from that scene, you'll spawn in front of the door instead of back at wherever you originally entered the scene. So this allows you to have doors that you can open and leave from, or maybe you can do some wacky things. Who knows? Now, hotspots, the X, Y, width, and height are all used, as you saw, so their size is important. And then they have one custom property called action script, and this is the script that will be activated when you click on it. And you'll also notice that the type is hotspot, and this is important as well. But if I load light show, for instance, and you can see that this has the background with a lowercase b, everything's very case sensitive. You can see that here it has the lit property. So this says, oh, can lights interact with it? If yes, check. If no, uncheck. But you can see here triggers. The trigger type, the type is trigger, and it also has an action script. And I also want to let you know, all these names here, these tags that you see above, these are the names. And names aren't important for anything other than props and items. So these use the names importantly. Anything else is just for you to know as of now. So let's look at the action script real quick. So door to light show activates res script demo load light show.ren. So the scripting language that Televoid uses right now is Ren. You can see here that we have a couple of scripts, and you can see that these scripts are pretty simple. So this is load light show.ren. The first thing we always need to do is import televoid/core, and then after you have to say what you're gonna use from this core file, which I'll explain in just a second. So I want to use scene. I want to interact with the scene, and this allows me to do scene.load, which will load a scene. That here we put within parentheses within quotes the path to the scene we want to load relative to the executable file, which is res/scene/demo/lightshow.tmx. So when you click on the here this hotspot that I call the door to light show, it will activate that script which loads the light show file. If I go into the light show, you can see over here we have the item, type item, name is important key, and just like the props, they are also loaded automatically, but they use textures, inventory, items, and here are all the items. So the name of the item just has to be the name of the file. You don't care about the extension, you just care that it is a name of the file, and everything here needs to be a PNG file. And what's really nifty about this is that all of these items are loaded as items automatically by the game. So whenever you add a new file in here, it becomes a new item that that Ian can pick up. And it is important to note that the name of the files are also the name of the items, including underscores, including capitals. So over here, this is where the key item is, which is the yellow key, because that's the name of the file over here. If I go into the room scene over here, you can see that blue key is the name of this item. Oh, and the width and the height has to be 9 by 9, which is the resolution of the item. This just allows you to better visualize where it's going to be placed as well. I wasn't able to actually display the textures as I wanted, but that's okay. I guess this works okay for now. At least you can still identify what's what. Once you have both keys, the dialog test is activated, or you can activate this and this will allow you to win. So this is the win test script, which if I go here, you can see that this file is a little more complicated. So this imports scene and inventory, and you can see here the commands though are pretty simple, even though there's a lot going on here. Whenever there's a double slash, this is a comment. So basically all of this, when a comment is coded, is ignored. So you can write whatever you want. It's used for notes, but you can also, kind of comment out code. Anyway, so just ignore these two lines here. So over here, you can see that we have simple checks here. So if the inventory has key and the inventory has blue key. So this checks if we have both of the keys. Then these curly brackets, everything that's within those brackets, so all of this, will only be executed if this statement is true. So if we have both of those items, we'll do this. Otherwise, we'll do what's in this bracket, which this only displays text within a terminal if you were to execute it with a terminal. So this could perhaps be a dialogue that pops up and Ian is like, oh, it's locked. And then once you have the keys, it just it just loads the scene. So you can see that when you do have both items, it removes the key, it removes the blue key, and then it loads the scene, just like we saw earlier, same command. So let's look quickly at the Televoid core file. So over here, you'll notice that there was a Televoid file, and that's where our core.ren file is. And this file has various things called classes. Basically, these are just the definitions of the various functions that you can execute. For instance, when we did scene.load, it knows that you're saying, oh, I want to scene load a path, which is the position of, like, relative to the executable file, this res slash scene slash whatever. So you can kind of see all the commands that you can do. So you can scene load something, you can inventory add an item, inventory remove an item, and you can check if inventory has an item, and it all uses the item name as a parameter, which when the parameters are text, we would put within quotes. And over here, we also have some dialog stuff, but that's still work in progress, but eventually you'll be able to do dialog.load, and that will allow you to load files. And the scene that's loaded when you win is this scene, which you can see is pretty crazy. Oh, I just noticed that all these chairs here, I accidentally put them in the hotspot layer, but you saw that they still loaded chairs properly, and that's because it looks at the type, which is very important. Something that I was saying about the items, the reason they, you can define that there's a key here, but if Ian already has a key, this key will not spawn in. So that's how I got around, duplication of items. The last thing that we have to look at here are these lights that I put within a light layer that I made yellow. Once again, not important, but they are points, and they have two values, an ambient color and a diffuse color. So the ambient color is the color of the light when it directly hits an object that is lit, that can be lit, and the diffuse color is indirect lighting. And this just simulates light bounces, so you can imagine that the light hits the wall behind you, and then the wall behind you lights your back. When you're being hit by the sun, your back isn't completely blacked out in shadow, it's just dimmer. So this is the dimmer color of the light when it's not directly hitting you, and the ambient color is the color when it's directly hitting you. So you can put in any color value here. It doesn't even have to be consistent. You could make the direct hit of the light red and then the indirect green. Yeah, this just allows you to control the light color. And you can see, so this light is the red light. Over here we had a green light, and you can see here that it has the green, some green colors. And you can put any color value you want, which is really cool. And I was mentioning a directional light on the outside scene. I put it over here. Its position, you can put it anywhere. It's not really important because it won't look at the position when it's a directional light. And it becomes a directional light when you have these three values here. So if you have direction X, Y, and Z, you can imagine this being an arrow. So here is 0.5 minus 0.5. It's like if it was pointing to the right and then negatively like this. So it's kind of like if it was pointing like this, which is why everything in the scene, their corners like this, were being illuminated by this light, because that is the direction of the light. So when your light is pointing to the right, the left side of things are being activated. And of course, you can still define the ambient and diffuse color. And that's the only difference between the directional light. So when it's a directional light, it's like if those rays of light existed everywhere in parallel lines, whilst when they are point lights like this, then the light radiates from this point. Actually, this point down here. So the rays radiate from this point right here. And so if you're on the right side of it, your left side is lit. But if you're on the left side, your right side is lit. So that's how that works. And once again, these aren't directional lights because they don't have the custom properties. And so if you want to mess around with various scenes and whatever, you can just take a scene that you want to edit, and you can make a copy of it, and then try to like make it load in or whatever. But when you copy it, you then have everything here, and then you can like, oh, I want another spawn point. Well, or I want another light. You could grab the light, you could duplicate it, you could do whatever, or you could just edit scenes directly, but have some fun. Mess around with it. So that's all we have right now. Eventually we'll add the ability to place 3D models. We'll add the ability to parallax backgrounds, so that's not a thing yet. But things are shaping up. I really like the dynamic loading of the props and the dynamic loading of the items. So I'll do more things like that. Also the background is dynamically loaded. I forgot to mention the background. Basically, it has to be spelled with a lowercase b. This is the only layer that has important spelling. And then you can just select the image that you want. And the image has to be in the same folder as the scene, which is why over here, all of these, they're together. But if you wanted like to make a room folder with multiple backgrounds and multiple scenes, then you could do that too. But you have to just make sure that the image that's loaded is within that very same folder, so you can see that everything's here. And yeah, I think that's it. There's nothing else for me to say. If there's any questions, let me know. I hope you enjoyed this devlog. I'm really excited to have this editor because we can now like make things a lot quicker. I like the scripting. I plan on eventually adding mini game scripting so that it could be just as easy to create some mini games for the game, because that's always fun. So if there's an arcade machine, you can click on it, then the run script of the hotspot over the arcade machine could start an arcade script or a mini game script, whatever I'd call it. And then that script would run in a loop, and you could program in like an entire different game without impacting the main televoid code. And I'm trying to be more systematic with things, so there are these item things, there are these spawn points, and these are systems that will remain consistent within multiple scenes. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and yeah, we'll hope that the development goes faster, goes smoother, and we'll try to add more things as time goes on. I'm planning on working quicker myself, and I've learned a lot throughout the years working on this project. I've learned a lot about myself, and I'm glad I haven't given up yet, because this game is quite a challenge for some reason for me. It's because it's so specific and organized, and in a way that I'm not, so I'm learning to be organized. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.